thank you all for coming to the first of our winter quarter poem present events. We'll be having many more events later on in February and going on through into the spring. But right now I'm delighted to see such a terrific crowd here to hear Rae Armantrout read. I'll just jump into my introduction. In the winter of 1694, his legendary travels across the landscape of feudal Japan now come to an end. The old poet Basho composed one last haiku as he lay dying of a sudden illness amid a circle of his distraught literary disciples. Feverish on a journey, my dream goes wandering over the withered field. When the journeying self comes to a full stop, something, Basho here calls it dream, continues its mysterious wanderings. Readers of Rae Armantrout's new collection of poetry, Versed, will experience something of this uncanny momentum, at first apparent in the restless, endlessly propulsive sense of form, born of Dickinson, Williams, and Niedecker, yes, but also in dialogue with the minimalist elegance of the haiku tradition, which perpetually undermines the closure of line, stanza, and lyric poem in this writer's work. Indeed, Basho's most famous book, The Narrow Road to the Interior, could very well provide a subtitle for Versed, a torqued and sinuous collection that maps its own narrow, formal path to our collective dream of interiority. But the continuation of dreaming beyond the termination of identity appears also in the poet's open-eyed narrative of her nightmarish encounter with cancer and her meditations on what might follow this unsettling experience of mortality. Heaven? A scattering of ashes? Some soul-devouring demon beyond the sea of reeds? Again and again in this collection, Armantrout's speaker asks what dream will wander on when the fever of herself is dissolved. Like the great haiku collections of the Edo era, the poems of Versed capture the epistemological dramas of fugitive perception. A receipt blown crazily across the parking lot was, perhaps, a moth, in one poem, and pathos of strangers' headlights tracing the curve at dusk is inexplicable in another, as well as the everyday ironies of being human beings. Perfect red roses coaxed to frame a door, beyond which a couple bickers. And why not? Asks the poet, who, in a later poem, observes her practiced hands knitting, hole by hole, a great shapeless scarf, mind on something else. But Armantrout's narrow road to the interior allows an even broader spectrum of discourse than Basho would ever have imagined to enter into literary representation. Ranging from the Ars Poetica, it's beautiful when one thing changes while another thing remains the same, to samples of mass media, breaking Anna Nicole news as she buries her son, to philosophy, at bottom, where position joins conjecture, we posit, to love poetry, the short moan or hum you exhale as you drift toward sleep is an island I can't visit. And finally, to the merciless beauty and musicality of something approaching sheer Orphic utterance. Go be embedded, beaded, pebbled, the fickle luster. That's right, the fretwork of disaster. The end of such discursive wanderings is, like that of the Zen traveler among the withered fields, a humbling anonymity. Anyone could write this, writes Armantrout, and perhaps she is right. But only a poet so thoughtful and probing with regards to the limits of identity would ever think to say so. Rae Armantrout is the author of 10 collections of poetry, including Next Life, selected by the New York Times as one of the most notable books of 2007. Up to Speed, a finalist for the PEN USA Award in Poetry. Veil, New and Selected Poems, also a finalist for the PEN Center USA Award. And, most recently, First. Her work has been widely anthologized, appearing in Language Poetries by New Directions and The American Tree, the famous anthology. Postmodern American Poetry with Norton. Poems for the Millennium, Volume 2. American Women Poets of the 21st Century, and several editions of Best American Poetry. He is also the author of a prose memoir, True, which I recommend, which was published by Atilos in 1998. She has taught writing for almost 20 years at the University of California, San Diego. Please join me in welcoming Rae Armantrout.
Thank you. That was a wonderful and surprising introduction. And Basho actually was an early favorite of mine, and you're right that the second part of that poem you quoted, a receipt blown crazily across the parking lot was perhaps a moth, is a sort of twist on a haiku standard where you see the leaf and you suddenly discover it's a moth. And Verst, by the way, you forgot this, ever a finalist, never a winner, but Verst was a finalist for the National Book Award. Oh, well. They have a couple of them back there, I think. And Verst is actually two collections that I put together. The first section of it, Verst, most of that was written before I was diagnosed with cancer. Since Chiku brings it up, I guess why not? Might as well say it too. Although at the end of the Verst section is pretty much when I had the surgery and just shortly after when I met you, Bob. And then in the second part, kind of post that, I was having chemo and I was prognosis was not good, so I really was thinking that I was dying. But that was 3.5 years ago, so I guess it's not a crisis right now. So anyway, I'm going to read some poems from both parts of the book, and then I'm going to read from a new manuscript. Address. That way my interest in their imaginary kiss is secretly addressed to you. Without intention, prongs of ivy mount the posts supporting the freeway. It would be possible to say each leaf circumscribes hope, or that each leaf, fastidiously coming to one point, suggests a fear of the unknown. These glossy, laced-up, high-heel boots, each leaf addressed to you. A resemblance. As a word is mostly connotation, matter is mostly aura, halo, the same loneliness that separates me from what I call the world. Quiet, ragged skirt of dust encircling a ceramic gourd. Look-alikes. Are you happy now? Would I like a vicarious happiness? Yes, though I suspect yours of being defective, forced. Outer. Dolls as celebrities, Barbie. Celebrities as dolls. I'm the one who can't know if the scraggly old woman putting a gallon of vodka in her shopping cart feels guilty, defiant, or even glamorous as she does so. She may imagine herself as an actress playing an alcoholic in a film. Removal activates glamour. To see yourself as if from the outside, though not as others see you. Carried by light, images remain, while sensation is so evanescent as to be always beyond belief. The outer world means State Farm, donuts, taekwondo, thoughts as spent fuel rods, preceded and followed by statuesque shadows of cacti on a lawn. Today could be described as a retired man humming tunelessly to himself. When I ask what you're thinking, you say, about explaining to children the best way to build a maypole. Yeah, that'll teach you to ask anyone what they're thinking. Didn't expect that. Just a second. Name calling. Objects are silly, lonesome, as the word ow is. Could we grant them a quorum? Dense with the shiny glossolalia of the leaves, the resilience of open-ended questions? Bud-nipped. What the pudendum attempts to pinch off, tries repeatedly, what comes to be called pleasure. I did a reading once where that poem was part of it, and it was broadcast on the radio, but they bleeped the word pudendum. I figure if you know what the word pudendum means, you won't mind hearing it. If you don't, it's not going to bother you. But oh well. Scumble. This is another sort of sexy poem. Scumble. What if I were turned on by seemingly innocent words such as scumble, pinky, or extrapolate? What if I maneuvered conversation in the hope that others would pronounce these words? Perhaps the excitement would come from the way the other person touched them lightly and carelessly with his tongue. What if of were such a hot button? Scumble of bushes. What if there were a hidden pleasure in calling one thing by another's name? Presto. Breaking Anna Nicole news as she buries her son. What do you want to be? Skeleton suits and Superman outfits. Inappropriate touching on drugstore racks. Presto. Pairs of flies retie the old knot midair. Blonde wigs and wizard caps. I want to go back. Invisible knot. I want to be that. New. If yellow is the new black, the new you is a cartoon spokesman who blows his lines around bumptious 3D Hondas, apologizes often, and remains cheerful. The new pop song is about getting real. You had a bad day. The camera don't lie. But they're lying to you about the camera. Since Fallujah is the new Antigua, sunlight nibbles on pre-charred terrain in the electric fireplace. Okay, now I'm going to start the second section, dark matter. Around. Time is pleased to draw itself out, permit itself pendulous loops, to allow them meaning, this meaning, as it goes along. Chuck and I are pleased to have found a spot where my ashes can be scattered. It looks like a construction site now, but it's adjacent to a breathtaking rocky coast. Chuck sees places where he might snorkel. We're being shown through by a sort of realtor. We're interested but can't get her to fix the price. The future is all around us. It's a place, any place, where we don't exist. Dark matter. Who am I to experience a burst of star formation? I know this. After the first rush of enthusiasm, any idea recedes and dims. Each one is the inverse shape of what's missing. One might try summing the matter up in a single Judas kiss, all bittersweet complicity and feigned ignorance. unbidden. The ghosts swarm. They speak as one person. Each loves you. Each has left something undone. Did the Palo Verde blush yellow all at once? Today's edges are so sharp they might cut anything that moved. The way a lost word will come back unbidden. You're not interested in it now, only in knowing where it's been. This next poem is dedicated to my son, who's a biologist, and we were having a conversation in which he accused me of anthropomorphizing evolution, which I hadn't meant to do, but it's hard to talk without using the language of intention. So I just sort of, came off of that conversation with this poem. Simple. Complex systems can arise from simple rules. It's not that we want to survive, it's that we've been drugged and made to act as if we do. While all the while the sea breaks and rolls painlessly under. If we're not copying it, we're lonely. Is this the knowledge that demands to be passed down? Time is made from swatches of heaven and hell. If we're not killing it, we're hungry. Solution. A solution is found when creatures from the last ice age band together to survive. Circumstances spin like the mobile above a baby crib. Follow along with an endearing first person, a penguin. You won't get far. You're the thing that waits to trap each passing thought, the anxious blank that God loves. For a while, I got tired of those movies about penguins. Identify with the penguin. There's a new phenomenon in movies that's disturbing, I think, called a D-box seat, at least in San Diego, where the seat will bounce according to what's happening to the character. But doesn't that sort of imply that it is telling you which character to identify with? Anyway, neither here nor there. Resounding. Are you still interested in the image of this island as a brown shoulder or breast half hidden by clouds? Are you turned on by chimeras, the impossible woman, part igneous, part surge? Go be embedded, beaded, pebbled, the fickle luster, that's right, the fretwork of disaster. Go on, be half shrouded by. Provenance. It's characteristic of X to place his anxiety here, between time and alive. What can you give me for this glimpse and its provenance? I've got one just like it. What interests me now are spin-offs of spin-offs, the narrative that rescues us once more in a less probable way. By sailing upside down at dusk, we've returned from the land of the dead. That was actually a plot point in the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie, but I'm sure no one even remembers that now. Easy come, easy go. Integer. One what? One grasp? No hands, no collection of stars. Something dark pervades it. Metaphor is ritual sacrifice. It kills the look-alike. No, metaphor is homeopathy. A healthy cell exhibits contact inhibition. These temporary credits will no longer be reflected in your next billing period. Dark meaning not reflecting, not amenable to suggestion. This next one is a prose poem based on a dream, as a few of my poems are. Report. What did the men look like? I call 911, but reach a psychic hotline. All the service numbers have been changed. Why wasn't I told? The burglars sneer when I ask the psychic to patch me through to the police. Chuck is searching for help online, but of course the screen freezes. We try joking with the burglars about the telecom system. They laugh menacingly. On the busy patterned carpet, one empty shoe nuzzles its twin. Still, once we believed the bees, moving as attention does, settling and lifting from blue identicals, were the picture of eternity. Practiced hands knitting, hole by hole, a great shapeless scarf, mind on something else. A scarf? Something intensive, seen from afar, something long. Hoop. God twirled across the face of what cannot be named since it was not moving. God was momentum then, that impatience with interruption, stamping time's blanks with its own image. Now her theme will be that she has escaped certain destruction, that she is impossibly lucky. This theme should be jaunty but slightly discordant, coming in, as it does, so late. The character associated with this theme should be dressed in markedly old-fashioned clothing, a hoop skirt perhaps, while everyone else is in cutoffs, ready for the barbecue. Anchor. Widely expected, if you will, cataclysm. Things I'd say, am saying, to persons no longer present. Yards away, trim junipers make their customary bows. Oh, no, thank you, to any of it. If you watch me from increasing distance, I am writing this always. And just one more from the book, then I'm going to read some newer stuff. I don't often read this one, but somehow I thought I would. Someone. I hear them talking outside. I know they're planning to come in. They haven't yet because they're waiting for someone or something. You might be amused by this focus on out and in. I'm looking for a heart-to-heart, a rhyme between the blankness of my, and the blue emptiness. Okay, my new manuscript, which should be coming out, I don't know, in 2.5 years, something like that, is called Money Shot. Everyone's very polite, so I assume no one even has heard that phrase. It's not really about porn. Staging. Everything will be made new. The precision coupling and uncoupling, the studied blocking and folding have already begun. Stillness of gauzy curtains and the sound of distant vacuums. Prolonged sigh of traffic and the downward curve of fronds. The spray of all possible paths. Define possible. Money Shot. Indie Mac. Able to exploit pre-existing. Tain. Per. In. Con. Cyst. I'm on a crowded ship, and I've been served the wrong breakfast. This small mound of soggy dough is not what I ordered. Why don't you just say what you mean? Why don't I? Maybe I will this time. Across. wood under an oval lake of glass, across which this morning parallel wakes appear, gleaming bits of skin akin to happiness? Of course a cross is metaphorical, but light is violent and weightless. Light is the wail of atoms pressed to touch. It is reluctance raised to absolute velocity. I seem to be strangely thirsty. I don't know what that's about. Sustained. To come to in the middle of a vibrato and is that some sopranos struggling to sustain. To be awake is to discriminate among bird calls, fruits, seeds, to work one's way, as they say, through. Just now, breaking into awareness, falling forward, hurtling inland in all innocence. Working models. A diversity noir hit in which a shapeshifter and a vampire run rival drinking establishments. Demons handle routine tasks once we're in the zone, tagged and released into the workforce. Chicks are forced to find food, grains scattered among pebbles, while monitoring for the appearance of a model predator. Apes can mind read, studies show. What makes us human is our tendency to point. It's always something new and different that makes us human. It used to be we could make tools, but now we can draw people's attention to something by pointing. It's getting more and more modest, folks. Fuel. The sun on my back, like your hand, at night, in bed. And then again, your hand on my back at night, like the sun has burned through 2/3 of its fuel. That you adorn the fallen, that your heads and shafts are smooth, cool, a spongy marble, that you are stock still and spontaneous at once, that you are one, as we always thought we knew. This next poem is kind of like a part 2 to that poem, or it comments on it or something. The gift. You confuse the image of a fungus with the image of a dick in my poem, understandably. And 3 days later, a strange toadstool, white shaft, black cap, 5 inches tall, appears between the flagstones in our path. We note the invisible web between fence posts in which dry leaves are gently rocked. Literally true. Anyway. Bubble wrap. Want to turn on CNN? See if there have been any disasters? In the dream, you slip inside me. Ponzi scheme, rhyme scheme. The child wants his mother to put her head where his is, see what he sees. In the dream, inside the dream, our new roommates are arguing. These are not AstroTurf calls, and we're all populists now. Now an engine's single indrawn breath, the black hole at the heart of it is taking it all back. An immigrant sells scorpions of twisted electrical wire in front of the Rite Aid. This starts out with a prose section and then goes to a section in lines. It's called Recording. It occurs to me that in the old city, the small peculiarities which I like to record, standing out against the familiar chains at home, might not stand out at all, or might not seem very peculiar. Here, everything is singular, and strangeness may be hard to recognize as such, or not. I don't know, and there is no way to ask the inhabitants about it. As part of the language lesson, I have holes cut in my forehead. I am to learn by feel to insert the proper keys. I play along, though privately I still have my doubts. Answer. A moment of stillness, demanding an answer. When does a moment end? Starbucks prayer, make morning good again. Leaf shadows on pavement, word meaning to slide, carelessly, repeatedly, to absent-mindedly caress. For I so loved the world that I set up my only son to be arrested. Here's a poem dedicated to John Milton. I never thought that would happen. Short. Eyes, after John Milton. Our light is never spent, is spent. Thus have we scooped out maceration reservoirs. We will blaze forth what remains as pixels. Great angels fly at our behest between towers, along axons and dendrites, so that things stand as they stand in the recruited present. Ground. Custom content feed. Let me tell you something personal. As a child, I worried about quicksand. I don't know why I mention this. I feel no connection to the child who had that fear, instilled, as it was, by 50s films about explorers, hokey and tainted now. I hold out my hand. Brownian motion, primal shudder, the way it's hotter to go to bed with someone while imagining yourself to be another person. Second person. Lemons, lanterns, hang late into the evening, but you are known for your voluptuous retreat, for leaving your absence on the air, illicit, thin. I know you think, I wonder if you think of me. This reflection spins a bead on a string. I can take it with me. This is the first time this poem has been read to an audience. Soft money. They're sexy because they're needy, which degrades them. They're sexy because they don't need you. They're sexy because they pretend not to need you, but they're lying, which degrades them. They're beneath you, and it's hot. They're across the border, rhymes with dancer, they don't need to understand. They're content to be, not mean, which degrades them and is sweet. They want to be the thing in itself and the thing for you. Miss thing, but can't. They want to be you, but can't, which is so hot. Advent. In front of the craft shop, a small nativity. Mother, baby, sheep, made of white and blue balloons. Sky, God, girl. Pick out the one that doesn't belong. Something close to nothing flat, from which, fatherless, everything has come. With. It's well that things should stir inconsequentially around me like this, patina of shadow, flicker, whisper, so that I can be still. I write things down to show others later, or to show myself that I am not alone with my experience. With is the word that comes to mind, but it's not the right word here. Outage. We like to think that the mind controls the body. We send the body on a mission. We don't feel the body, but we receive conflicting reports. The body is catching flack or flies. The body is sprouting grapefruit. The body is underperforming in heavy trading. Reception is spotty. Someone just like me is born in the future, and I don't feel a thing? Like only goes so far. The vesicle. To our amazement, when fed on fatty acid, the vesicle did not simply grow, it extended itself into a filament. Now the king's youngest daughter said, "I wish I had something like that." And the whole vesicle transformed into a slender tube which was quite delicate. Monks mimed one another's squiggles carefully by candlelight, as if they thought creation trailed something, as if they knew creation looked like this from what is always the outside. Errands. The old to and fro is newly cloaked in purpose. There's a jumble of hair and teeth under the bedclothes, in the forest. The better to eat you with, it says, and nibbles us until we laugh. An axeman comes to help. Two birds cheep to greet whatever has come up. Two. Paragraph. Record-breaking thriller dance attempt. Wolfman Jack style DJ in the video game says, "This is Wasteland Radio, and we're here for you." You are here, maintaining détente between the voices in your head. Immediacy is retro, says Lytle. Nostalgic, futuristic scene in which we can read the code. Green, flowing algorithms. We can almost slip right in. Getting tired, I think I'm going to skip that one. Sway. Caught up in the leaf, entranced, the carbon atom gets a life. But whose life is it? A slender whirlpool, momentary poppy, sways over a drain. Forget her. She doesn't love you. You will never have such grace. Okay, just 3 more. Money talks. Money is talking to itself again. In this season's bondage and safari look, its closeout camouflage. Hit the refresh button and this is what you get. Money pretending that its hands are tied. On a billboard by the 880, money admonishes, "Shut up and play." Win. Card in the mail. Win a free cremation. On the tabletop, a scatter. Grains of salt, sugar, aglow. It works for me. Gracious wood grain supplying what I like best, an illusion of passage. And this will be the last one. Real article. Everything I know is something I've repeated. Lazy horn solo tries to wander off, but can't. Or does, and we don't notice. Veterans Day flags lap idly at their poles. The day is warm. That's it.